Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. I see there's people in the chat already missing the show from yesterday. Of course, there were the StreamYard issues. We got the show out to you a couple hours late. Hopefully, you caught that and enjoyed it. But I got to be honest, if you caught it, you might have had a losing day because Mackenzie Brooks coming off an unbelievably good Monday night primetime show. She goes 0 for 2. Buckets loses 2 out of 3. Eric Casilius goes 1 for 2. And a shout out because EK hit that Syracuse one, but obviously Tom Casale was on Monday touting the Syracuse play as well. But we obviously got to do way better than 2-5. That is not super acceptable. We've had more winning days than losing days over the last couple of weeks. So listen, that's going to happen, but we're going to bring in the stars of the show to improve off 2-5 and maybe flip it to something closer to 5-2. We're one short today, but we've got our regular Wednesday, guy in Martin Green, and Tom Casale joins us. Tom, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Glad to be on.
All right. By the way, shout out to you. Syracuse Monday. You said the line's not out yet, but when it comes out, you're probably going to jump on it. Your reaction to Syracuse taking care of business?
Well, they were up by 24 in the second half. Then they blew it, and they were up by 10. And we had a pull away there at the end, but they scored 102. And somebody texted me. Now, for those that don't know, I live right between Albany and Syracuse. And I said, if we scored 102 and didn't cover, I would have driven to the campus and I would have toilet papered the whole place. Like you score 102 against Albany and can't cover 12, something's wrong. But no, they got the job done. Albany, as we said, they can't defend it all in the paint. But I'll say this, and for everyone listening out there, not only is Syracuse not a good basketball team, they don't have the right coach. This is the guy after the guy who isn't the guy. And I don't know if Georgetown will beat them on Saturday because Georgetown's not very good either. I lean Georgetown. But there's going to be a lot of spots this year to bet against Syracuse.
Very interesting. I'm a Georgetown fan, so that would be really great for Georgetown to grab. I don't want to call it a signature win, but it certainly would be a signature win for Georgetown, the way things are going for them these days. Martin Green, how are you today? What do you have for us? I know buckets yesterday. I think you had a lot of Champions League. Is that what we've got today from you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Sia. Yeah, it is Champions League again today. It's an exciting time in the season. I think we're on match day 6 now out of 8. So a lot of teams are fighting desperately for points to try and finish within the cut so that they make it through to the knockout stage of the Champions League. And yeah, we've got some really big games today. Juventus versus Manchester City. We've got Borussia Dortmund versus Barcelona. So lots of the world's best players will be in action. Lots of great games to look forward to. And I'll be breaking a couple of them down for you guys later in the show.
All right. Well, we're going to hear those picks in just a minute. Tom Casale, Joe Neuenfeld says, you look like my grade school principal. Your reaction? I think that's a compliment. Your reaction?
I feel bad for your grade school principal then.
That's fantastic. There's also some picks in the chat. I know there's some sharp people in the chat giving out picks. And speaking of picks, let me set the table. So we've got Martin Green's picks. We've got a pick, a SportsLine pick from the new kid in town, prop bet guy. He's got a pick in the NBA. I've got an NFL pick for tomorrow. I'm probably going to add a pick or two to the NFL Thursday night game, but I'm giving one out on today's show. And then, of course, Tom Casale, you're hitting us with, I believe, college basketball. Martin, let's get to a pick. Let's get to 2 picks, actually. Tell me what is going on with the pitch today.
Great. Thank you very much, Sia. Yeah, I am starting with that big game which is taking place in Turin between Juventus and Man City. And I think that Juventus should be able to exploit Man City's defensive weaknesses in this game. City are currently enduring their worst run of results since Pep Guardiola took over as manager in 2016. They have just 1 win, 1 draw, and 6 defeats from their last 8 games. Which is pretty much unthinkable for a team of Man City's dominance. But they're falling apart ever since Rodri, their defensive midfielder, succumbed to a long-term injury. Results have just been terrible. It's quite hard to see them keeping a clean sheet in this game. However, they remain dangerous in attack, and the likes of Kevin De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva should be able to unlock the Juventus defence that conceded twice against Bologna at the weekend. So I like both teams to score in that game at -125. Looks like a great bet to me. I also think that the mighty Arsenal should pick up a home win against Monaco today. They're unbeaten since captain Martin Ødegaard returned from injury. I think they should just have too much attacking quality for Monaco to handle. They've got a bit of an injury crisis in defence, but Monaco are also missing a few key players. So I think we should get a home win there. I was searching desperately for a team to parlay Arsenal with today. I was looking at AC Milan maybe, but I just couldn't find anything particularly appealing. So I looked at tomorrow's Europa League slate instead. Manchester United are away at Pilsen in the Czech Republic, which is where Pilsner, the beer, comes from. They're good at drinking beer, but not so good at playing soccer. And I think that Man United should win that one comfortably. So if you put Man United and Arsenal together, you get plus 105 for a 2-leg parlay. Looks great to me. Alternatively, if you just want to parlay tomorrow, you can do Man United and Porto, because I think both of those teams should win. But I'm going Arsenal, Man United at plus 105.
You dropped a fun fact in there. The Pilsner fun fact. I always love that. I'm a big fun fact guy, big pop culture guy. A big well wishes guy, because John and Mark Buckholtz in the chat, it looks like your wives, you were mentioning your wives and best wishes to them. So was the chat, because I know they're coming off some surgery or something of that nature. So obviously best to all of you in the chat and your significant others and your families. Hopefully everything goes well there. All right, we've got more picks to get to, including, I mentioned it, prop bet guy. We've got Jalen Green. Prop bet guy, he's sharp. He's taken an under on Jalen Green's under 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists at minus 111. This game starts at 9:30. Golden State, obviously, at Houston here. Jalen Green under 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists at minus 111. You can catch all of prop bet guy's picks on SportsLine. Speaking of SportsLine, speaking of picks, new BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10 and you'll receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's bonus code EDGE, EDGE. All right, we got to get to my NFL pick for Thursday Night Football time. We got to get to your college basketball pick. We're going to do it right after this message from our partners.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
We're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Martin, at the end of the show, I'm certainly going to come to you if there's soccer questions that I missed in the chat. The chat is so active. Hopefully you're active hitting the like button as well. We all appreciate that, but they're so active that I can't get to all of these comments. So when it comes to soccer, I'll come back to you at the end of the show before the recap screen to talk about that. All right, I'm going to talk about Thursday Night Football. It's obviously tomorrow night, not a pick for today. Brock Purdy. I think this is such an interesting game, the 49ers and the Rams. I don't know where to put the 49ers in the scheme of things. Obviously, on the outside looking in with the playoffs. Rams coming off an impressive win. I think Brock Purdy's going to have a day. I'm going to take the over 243.5 passing yards. This is really anywhere between 243.5 and 245.5 right now. I would take the 245.5. I think we're going to see San Francisco throw the ball. And I also think this line is depressed just a little bit because of a couple of rocky games that Brock Purdy has had. Certainly not last game, but the 2 games before that, the shoulder injury, I think it's keeping his line at bay. I think maybe this should be in like the 247 to 254.5 range, and we're getting a decent number here. You can pass against the Rams. The Rams rush defense certainly better than their pass defense. Last time these two teams played, granted it was a long time ago, it was week 3, but we had 292 yards passing for Brock Purdy, and he didn't even have Deebo Samuel or George Kittle in that game. He did have Brandon Ayuk. He did have Juwan Jennings. He's got his full complement of receivers outside of course, the Brandon Ayuk injury, but I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball too well. They're certainly going to be able to run the ball, but I don't know that Isaac Guerrero is going to play. We're probably looking at Keyshawn Vaughn and some of the other backups, Patrick Taylor. I think Brock Purdy is going to have to throw it to keep pace with the Rams. So give me over 243.5 passing yards. Tom, before we get to your college basketball pick, I know you look, I mean, you're a college football guy, but any thoughts on this NFL game tomorrow? I mean, the Niners land 2.5 points. When you saw that line and you know the circumstances with both of these teams, the NFC West still being attainable for both of these teams technically, any thoughts on this one?
Well, I agree with your Purdy play. My son is in the fantasy playoffs and doesn't have a great quarterback. And I actually told him to pick Purdy up this week because I think he's going to have a big game. I don't think he listened to me, but I like the Niners here. I can kind of see them. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs, but I was telling my kids last Sunday when we were watching the game, I said, I can kind of see the Niners going on a late season run here just to make things interesting. The Rams, they're coming off the big win over Buffalo. I think this is a good spot to back San Francisco, but I definitely like your Purdy play and maybe a Juan Jennings. You said they're going to throw the ball. I agree, and I still think Jennings is a little undervalued in that passing attack.
Yeah, we hit Jennings props, in the middle of the year. Now the line's like up there. I think it's in the upper 60s. But to your point, I think Jennings and George Kittle have great games. I think George Kittle's line is now in like the 56.5 receiving yards range, which is a lot for a tight end. He probably gets there because I think Jennings, maybe a little bit of Debo, but certainly Kittle gets peppered here. There was somebody asking about golf. I think it was Daniel asking about golf. So this time of year, in terms of my golf articles and the golf content, that usually starts again in January. So we're only a month away from that. The only golf tournaments happening right now are on the European or on the World Tour, which I typically don't break down. I may look at it tonight to give you a pick tomorrow in that one, but that's not really my forte. So I'm probably not going to go there. But thank you for that question. Golf will be back sooner than you know it. Well, college basketball is here right now. Tom, you've got a pick tonight. What is it?
Yeah, I'm looking at Wright State and Marshall. Marshall hasn't won on the road yet. Neither team plays great defense, but Wright State shoots the ball much better than Marshall. Marshall, they play fast. They want to get to the foul line. Wright State, completely different, plays slow, but they don't foul that much either. And when Marshall isn't getting to the foul line and playing their style, they can struggle to score in the half court. And I think that's what's going to happen here tonight. Wright State slows them down, gets them in that half court where they struggle to shoot the basketball. The line is 5. I make it around 6.5, 7. So I think there's a little value here in taking Wright State at home. And I know something that people always ask me in the college basketball Discord is about money line parlays. I think Wright State is a great leg in a money line parlay tonight. I think they've lost a couple of close games to good teams like Bradley and South Florida away from home. And I think that's helping this line a little bit with some value. So Wright State at home minus the 5.
Interesting. I've been looking for something to parlay Washington money line with. I'm talking the Commanders, by the way. So maybe I'll do something for Wednesday and wait till Sunday to cap that off. But that is an interesting footnote on the money line parlay. Big Cheesy likes Deebo Samuel tomorrow night, over 49.5 receiving yards at minus 115. Squeaky wheel narrative, I don't hate it. What's interesting about Deebo Samuel is I think he'll line up in the backfield a little bit too with all of the injuries. So maybe looking at a combination yards, rushing and receiving, that could be the play for Deebo Samuel. I wonder if there's some drop off with him though, athletically, speed wise. I wonder if he's just not the guy that's going to get there like he did, a year ago, 2 and 3 years ago. So something to consider there. Big Cheesy also has a play on Fred VanVleet over, which I know he put in the chat earlier. Martin Green, any soccer in the chat for you to attend to?
I was just getting a question about the championship game between West Bromwich Albion and Coventry today. Could both teams score? I think both teams to score normally looks like a good bet when Coventry are in action, but West Brom kind of concern me. I think both teams to score has only paid off in a couple of their home games so far this season. Only 2 out of 9. They've kept 6 clean sheets at home as well. So it's just West Brom that concern me there. So I couldn't take that one in the end, I'm afraid. But looks quite good. Got a pick from Chris Kish, which I like. Over 6.5 goals for corners, for Arsenal in that game. I'd love over 6.5 goals. Don't think that's going to happen. But over 6.5 corners looks great. Arsenal generally get a lot of corners. What we got here? Dortmund, Barcelona, Milan, Red Star. Yeah, that should be a high-scoring game as well. I think maybe Dortmund might be able to snatch a draw or something against Barcelona. They're very good at home. So maybe Borussia Dortmund plus 0.5 or something like that. But yeah, keep the questions coming in. I'll keep answering them on the chat if there are any more.
Martin, forgive me if you answered this on the front end because I was so busy. I saw Japan said, "Oh my gosh, Jeff Stenberg has a real question instead of a trying to be funny question." And I like both sets of questions from Jeff Stenberg. Did you already answer the West Brom, Coventry, both teams to score? Because that was a question from Jeff Stenberg.
Yeah, that was the one where I think Coventry are quite a high-scoring team. Got a new manager as well, Frank Lampard, who's trying to prove himself. But it's the West Brom side of the equation that concern me there. As I say, 6 clean sheets in 9 home games, lots of drab, low-scoring home matches for West Brom at the Hawthorns. So it was a pass from me in the end. But I do quite like it. I'm leaning towards both teams to score, but not enough to play it. Probably I quite like QPR to beat Oxford United at home today in the Championship. That's probably my favourite out of all of those games in the second tier of English soccer.
All right, that sounds good. Tom, there was a question, and this is a little random, but because you mentioned the Wright State potential money line play, somebody asked you if you like that, and I don't know that you've looked at this game. Jeffrey Aguilar wants to know, do you like that with Notre Dame money line potentially?
Well, yeah, Notre Dame will win for sure. I mean, they're an 18-point favorite. They're playing.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, no. And I saw somebody else asked, who would you pair it with? It's always these lighter college basketball games are tough. They're all big spreads. My other lean though was East Carolina at home against North Alabama. East Carolina plays really slow and doesn't tend to blow teams out, so I didn't want to take it with the spread, which is about around 7.5. But I do think East Carolina will win tonight. So if you're looking for something to pair it with, but it's not a great overall card tonight. And the next two days are slow for college basketball, and then Saturday, Tennessee at Illinois, true road game for Tennessee. That might be the time now to go against the Vols. We'll see where that line opens up. It might be a little high, so I'll be looking at the opener on that game.
All right. Michael says, Sia clearly wasn't listening to Martin there. I wasn't, because the chat, listen, sometimes in that moment I wasn't, because sometimes I got to look at the chat because I'm trying to get some of those picks out there that you all are putting out there and some of the questions as well. So guilty is charged. I got to admit that. All right. And by the way, Tom just kind of alluded to something. Don't force it. You know what I mean? Like we mentioned moneyline parlays and all that, but like you don't have to have a dance partner with that parlay tonight necessarily. You don't even have to put a bet like that in. The key to betting is put in the good bets. Don't force anything. That's going to affect your bankroll. Just something to keep in mind this holiday season. All right, let's take a look at the recap screen before we get out of here. Well, that doesn't look very good. This one looks great. Hopefully we got some green check marks. Brock Purdy over 243.5 passing yards. That's obviously Thursday night football. Martin Green, Juventus, Man City, both teams to score at -125. And a moneyline parlay, Arsenal plus Man United at +105. Tom Casale, Wright State -5. And the sports line pick from our new guy, prop bet guy, Jalen Green under 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Big Cheesy says Purdy is up to 245.5 now. Yeah, it's 245.5 in some places, 243.5. I believe still in other places. I would still take it at 245.5 if that's all that you have in front of you. All right. Joe Neuenfeld says EK just sent the recap, of course. I think those jokes get old for some people, not for me. Ladies and gentlemen, what a great show. What a great Wednesday show. We're going to have a lot of heavy hitter shows tomorrow, of course, with the Thursday morning show, which will be a fuller cast than this. And then we'll have the primetime show at 7:15. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for all the participation in the chat and the hitting of the like button and all of that stuff. Some of you have tweeted out your Spotify Wrapped with Early Edge at #1 or somewhere in your top 5. We appreciate all of that as well, and the reviews of the podcasts. Big Cheesy, Brad Moores, Brad Betts, Chris Kish, KC3 CLE fan. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for being in here every single day. And to those of you that are new, thank you for joining us as well. This has been the Early Edge. On behalf of Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s, Martin Green, Tom Casale, I'm the Counselor of Cash, Sia Nejad. We rest our case, folks.